prototype GLK, GLK-Class, was first introduced in early 2008 at the Detroit Auto Show, and the model debuted at the Beijing Auto Show in April, while outwardly the novelty practically did not differ from the concept. The platform for the crossover was the S-Class station wagon S204, so the factory index turned out to be uncomplicated, X204, where X is probably Americanism, X over, that is, a crossover. The appearance of the GLK echoes the largest GL model in the lineup. By the way, among the options for deciphering the abbreviation there is this, GL curse, that is, short. According to the owners and mechanics, the best version of the Mercedes-Benz GLK is a post-styling one with a gasoline engine and an index of 350. At the same time, interestingly, there are almost an equal number of cars with a diesel and a gasoline engine in the secondary market, and there are many of them. Only in Moscow, about 300 Mercedes-Benz GLKs of different versions, both pre- and post-styling, are sold at the same time. This means there are plenty to choose from. Over the years, 10 variants of power units were installed on the crossover, equally petrol and diesel. The engines were both 4-cylinder and V-shaped sixes. The smallest was the 2.0-liter 184 horsepower turbocharged gasoline M274, which, unfortunately, was not recognized as the most successful, although it was quite enough for a 2-ton car. It appeared on the restyled model of 2012 and greatly upset the owners with the sudden failure of the camshaft, which changes entirely, and the crackling of the phase shifters at startup, which is also treated only by amputation and replacement. This motor had two versions of different power, 184 and 211 horsepower. The engines are sleeved, although sleeves are considered fragile, and a hardened chain can last many hundreds of thousands of kilometers without visible wear, although it is said to stretch. In an atmospheric gasoline 3.0-liter, the problem occurs in the form of a burnout of the polymer intake manifold flaps, which requires the replacement of the entire non-separable assembly, unlike the Bavarian M57, where the flaps can simply be removed. Rough idling and poor acceleration sometimes signal precisely this malfunction, which is usually determined after half of the sensors have been replaced and the timing has been sorted out along with the fuel equipment. The damaged shutter falls into the cylinder and grinds everything that the fragments get to. The cost of repair must be compared with the possibility of replacing the engine, which can be found in dismantling for $150,000. If you manage to establish the cause before the breakdown, then the damper block should be replaced with a modified one made of light alloy. More often on these motors there are problems with an extended timing chain and a worn camshaft drive star. They also apply to the 3.5-liter V6 with a capacity of 236 horsepower, which was installed before restyling. After 2012, it was replaced by the M276 of the same volume, but already with the power of 306 horsepower. And, despite the gluttony, this is apparently the best motor for the GLK. Yes, and one more thing, on all gasoline engines, you must be extremely careful about the state of the catalyst. If it clogs, then the over-enrichment of the mixture, overheating of the combustion chamber and scuffing on the walls of the cylinders with fragments of the catalyst are inevitable. Inline Mercedes-Benz diesels are traditionally good. The GLK was equipped with the 2.1-liter OM651, which did not show any catastrophic failures. Its only weak point is the Delphi injectors. They traditionally cannot stand low-quality fuel and abrasive in the line, but at the same time they are inexpensive and are repaired in pre-styling versions. After 2012, the power of these engines increased from 170 horsepower up to 204. For the trouble-free operation of the unit, it is very important to check the firmware update and the terms of service of the fuel system. More powerful V-shaped OM642 with a working volume of 3.0 liters and a power of 224 to 231 horsepower suffered from cylinder scuffing due to oil starvation. The reason may be in the oil heat exchanger, or nozzles can pour. You also need to monitor the condition of the particulate filter. If it is clogged, the intake manifold, located next to the exhaust, may begin to overheat, and its exfoliated particles will kill the cylinder mirror. On all diesels, in no case should you ignore the burning particulate filter replacement icon. Otherwise, this will lead not only to the problems described above, but also to damage to the turbine and the EGR system. GLK was brought to us exclusively with automatic transmissions, 6 and 7-band. Most of all, it was 7G tronic that were most common, which at the dawn of production became a real headache. Moreover, Problems appeared not so much with the gearbox itself, but with the transfer case. The crossover was equipped with a 4-motion drive with a viscous coupling blocking. Conventionally, the rear-wheel drive was the main one, and 42% of the power was given forward. The left axle shaft of the front drive passed through the crankcase, and the bearing inside turned out to be rather weak. The bearings in the transfer case, which is interlocked with the transmission, were also not very reliable. Already in the first 100,000, while driving, noise could appear, which varies depending on the thrust vector and in corners. In a state of disrepair, the noise alternated with shocks, and all 3 bearings needed to be replaced, which is not easy and expensive. But if this is tightened, the wear of the bearings will kill the alignment of the internal shafts, which in turn will lead to an imbalance in the transfer case chain and damage to the housing with the need to replace the entire unit. And it costs under 300,000. The transmission requires the most timely and very professional service. A little easier for owners of the smallest petrol and diesel engines that came with the tougher 6-speed transmission. Each new owner, along with the change of consumables, must change the front shock absorbers and stabilizer struts. The first do not nurse 100,000, and the second, sometimes even 30. Noise isolation on the GLK is excellent, but the rattles coming from the suspension will still get to your ears. The levers themselves are reliable and durable, and the silent blocks literally change on the knee and are inexpensive. On runs of more than 100,000, rear floating silent blocks can be replaced, 3,000 each, and the rear shock absorbers will last at least 200,000 kilometers of our roads. High-mileage Mercedes-Benz GLK buyers may be disappointed by the state of the interior, and even if there are no signs of visible wear in it, although plastic is easily scratched and the skin cracks. The problem is that the interior of the crossover is filled with squeaks, knocks, and crickets over time. And the heater motor has the unpleasant property of suddenly failing, whistling briefly at the end. At the same time, the driver's landing is a reference. The rough panel is understandable and ergonomic, which cannot be said about the overloaded steering column switch. It is a long tradition of Mercedes-Benz and requires getting used to. To maintain the exemplary condition of leather upholstery and panels, the manufacturer has released a whole cosmetic line, but who will follow this with us? They say it's best if the GLK was owned by a neat girl before you, and the girls like to ride the GLK. Salons in such cars look much better. The second row is not too spacious, and in general the car is narrow, but the trunk is voluminous and large. Owners of crossovers with 20-inch wheels should carefully monitor the condition of the wheel bearings. Although, if you do not allow hard hits and do not fly through obstacles, there should not be any special problems. Oddly enough, it is precisely because of the large selection in the secondary market that it is not easy to find a suitable GLK. For example, you want dynamics, but with a 3.5-liter V6 engine, you can run into not only problems with it yourself, but also a dead chassis. Diesels are economical and also fast, even the smallest, but it is better not to drive them far from gas stations with high-quality fuel. In addition, you need to make sure that the car has passed all the numerous service promotions and firmware updates. The service is of high quality and much more, which makes buying a Mercedes-Benz GLK a real lottery. But if you are lucky, then you will not be disappointed in the car. Moreover, a line of people who want to buy it after you will quickly line up.